Welcome to the table. Go ahead and take a seat. We're just about to begin. I am D. Midgarin, joined once more by our wonderful cast here. With us today, we have Toxic and we have H. So we want to take a little bit of a break from our game. We are currently in the off season. Happy holidays to everybody listening live. And Toxic actually came up with a very good question, and it's one that we've touched on a little bit, but I wanted to expand upon that. So Toxic, if you could.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about the tiers of play for D&D. Tiers of play are usually is a term usually used in D&D Adventurers League. I think there's a big misconception into how tiers work. A lot of people think that you can just jump right in at any level and immediately understand it. There is a method to the madness from starting at first level. I think it should be discussed. It'll clear a lot of things up for the people at home, and it'll enlighten people that aspire to be DMs as well, so you can handle said situations. I guess my question would be, how do you guys feel when you come into a game? The DM says, "All right, everybody, we're gonna make a first level character, or even a third level character."
I'm
Mid.
I'm totally fine with that, honestly. I feel like first level characters, if used right, can be just as exciting and just as fun as like 10th level characters, even more so. But I'm also under the philosophy of definitely leaning into your weaknesses. Plenty of people that definitely do like oh, I want to be a Mary Sue, I want to be good at everything. And, if my character doesn't have 18 to all their stats and they're totally useless and I can't play them, that's why when I build characters, I always go with standard array because I want those negatives. I want my character not to be good at something because
I
it's
like,
always
like
it's always just amazing when they like just horribly, horribly fail at stuff.
that. Sometimes they fail horribly in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
That's
H,
true.
what do you think?
I love starting at first level. I like the character stories, and I feel like if you start at like level 10, you've got to have so much of a backstory to build, and you have to like explain how and why the characters got their powers, etc. And so I like building them from the ground up, and that way I can like go back and like, oh yeah, that's the game that she got that, and that's the reason she has that ability. So I think it's a lot more fun, especially if you've got a DM who lets you play with the characters a little bit. Like some of the characters, maybe like you could make like an ice ball instead of a fireball kind of stuff. Like if your DM lets you do that because it fits the character and the storyline a little bit more.
Very well put. Mid, you were saying?
Yeah, there's definitely something about building a character from the ground up and, going through the motions of the character's growth and their story. So I did a game where we started at level, I think everybody was like level 14 and I came in as like level 13. They wanted to spend like a lot of time explaining like how awesome their character is. I'm level 13. I'm just as awesome. I just, don't know exactly what I did to be, this awesome. What the fuck did I survive through to be level
Exactly.
13? I also feel like if you don't know the game mechanics well, like if you haven't mastered a certain level of mechanics, then playing a high level character is just going to be more frustrating than it is the low levels. You can have a lot of fun with the low levels because it's a little bit easier to manage. Whereas if you're level 10, you have like 5 attacks, and then I have this special ability, and then this happens, and then if I do this, this also happens. And there's a lot to keep track of. And so if you're not prepared for it, if you haven't grown with the character and have used those abilities and mastered those abilities, you have a huge chance of actually forgetting those abilities that you have. It's just going to slow combat down to a crawl. I think we actually ran into that issue during the Theros games. And of course, it's all edited, but we spent 2 hours on combat because some of the people that were playing were like, we're just not ready for a high level campaign. So that was something on our end. Like that was like a kind of a mess up. Definitely when we do these short stories, these 6 episode stories, we definitely tier everything back. So we sit at between sixth and eighth levels. That is our sweet spot.
I definitely agree with what you said there. There is something to be said about laying the road work for
Hmm.
a character, starting the first tier or a local hero, if you will. You're just beginning to figure everything out and then come in at a higher level. And then you have so much to remember. There's no way, unless you've already laid the foundation for that character and you've been playing it a while. I mean, it's so much easier. Would you agree with that, H?
Oh yeah, I mean like playing a character from level 1 every single week, you're going to know everything about that character from a story point of view and mechanically. Like the next level, you're going to get that like extra ability and you're going to use it, but you're still going to have all the other things that you've been using for the weeks prior. So you're going to know everything about that character. And you're going to be able to, like, in the moment, one of the characters does something that throws off your initial plan. You're going to be like, okay, cool. I'll just do this instead. I've got an awesome backup plan. And you're just going to be able to do that on the fly.
Well, I have a story about this,
Story
and
time.
a story time. Toxic and I had a very fantastic DM a couple years back. His name is Andy, and he wanted us to make two characters. He wanted us to make and I think this is absolutely brilliant. He wanted us to make a 10th level character. Just go ahead, 10th level character, just draw it out on paper. But we were playing first level characters. So like our 10th level characters, those were like our mentors. I made a 10th level sorcerer. And he's like, okay, well, my sorcerer, he's going to be like a mage slayer. So he's a sorcerer trained to kill mages. That's his backstory. My path was 10 levels of straight sorcerer. But what had happened was we were stuck in this mountain, or we were stuck in this cavern or ancient ruins. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been years. The character was saved by a holy symbol. This curse was coming in, and he just prayed to this holy symbol because it was the only thing he had on him. One of the other characters dropped it. He was just like, if you help me, I swear to God, I'll turn to your religion. And then the holy symbol burst free. I was like, well, I guess this is my new god now. And that's
beautiful.
how my character multi-classed into a paladin. And if
Oh my
I
God.
did not do that journey, that would never have happened to my characters. A story decision basically determined what his leveling path was. And you don't get that if you just start at level 10.
Oh my God, I love that.
I have a
That's
similar
amazing.
story. I played through Curse of Strahd a couple months ago, and one of the characters, she was a warlock whose patron was actually Lathander, but she ended up spending a lot of time with my cleric, who was a cleric of zeal, so like a war cleric. And one of the levels she took was like she started working her way up from warlock into cleric of zeal. So we basically had 2 clerics, a paladin, and like 2 warlocks. But she was only like level 5 warlock or something. So we had all the Eldritch Blast, all the healing, all the attacks. It was great.
And absolutely no trust.
There was all the trust. The paladin and the warlock were both Lathander believers. My cleric followed Tempest, but she had grown up in the Lathander church because of her family. I think the other one was actually I think she was a sorcerer. She was the most untrustworthy of the bunch. She came in clutch sometimes.
Oh, you're one of those.
Who, me? Come on, you should know this by now. Of course I'm one of those.
Fair enough.
If you don't like starting at level 1, then a happy medium would be definitely to start at level 3, because it gives you a chance that most characters at that point have unlocked their archetypes. I don't think there's
That's
any
fair.
character that doesn't unlock their archetype at level 3. Some of them unlock their archetype at level 1 and 2, but 3 is basically the jump off point. And and I understand it. I understand why some DMs choose to do higher tiers, because at a certain point you get into the game and there's only so much that level 2, level 3 characters can do. You guys got to go fight the goblins. You got to go, kill the spiders. You got to go do this. You got to do that. And they're like, and the
Defeat the
DMs,
kobolds!
yeah, and the DMs kind of, and I understand, like the DMs kind of get burnt out. It's like, yeah, I need to take them through this, just get them here, and then we can actually do the fun stuff. I feel like Dungeons and Dragons definitely opens up a lot at level 5, but it's like a bubble kind of. The choices of enemies are narrow up until level 5, and then it expands. So from levels 5 through level, let's say 15, there's a wide range of things that you can do, and then like it shrinks back up again during at the higher levels, level 17, 18, 19, and 20. You have these demigods that you have to fight, or you have the super powerful lich.
Dragon.
Yeah, so dragons, things like that. So I feel like that gives you a lot more options to play with in those mid levels.
Yeah, I mean, like the high level ones are fun. They're not going to be fun for long because your characters are basically demigods themselves at that point. And you're just going to okay, well, there's 6 of us versus 1 of this thing. We're going to destroy it. Okay, on to the next.
At a certain point, high level games are just power fantasies. I like a gritty story. I like stories where people are like, oh my God, we're going to die.
Not that we're kink shaming people who like power stories, but
I don't think it's a kink shame. Like, you're allowed to have your own opinion about games, and for me personally, I prefer a more challenging game than someone that comes up is like, oh, I'm such and such of such and such and such and such and such and such. I'm like, okay, God, fine, whatever, just move on.
Can you let me know when you're done monologuing so we can get into this.
There is a joke, like there's like an inside joke in like some of the chats that we do. So the Wired Nerd, he he sent out this message like, okay, the game starts in 30 minutes. Well, it was on his channel, not my channel, not on Mid Gaming. It was on the Wired Nerd's channel. Link in the description below. And he was like, all right, the game starts in 30 minutes. I'm not running a game tonight. I have nothing prepared. I was like, oh, it's on his channel. I was like, so I messaged him. It's like I just had a miniature heart attack. Like I thought that one of my games had started and I had totally like lost track of time. I was like, all right, well, have fun on your game. He goes, oh no, you're playing. I was like, I have nothing prepared. He's like, all right, well, make a character real quick. I was like, all right, well, my character is a prince from definitely not Japan, trying to reclaim his lost honor. Oh, also, I want a harem subplot into it. No?
I'm here for this character. I just want to know more about this guy. Like, how did he get this harem? Is he really attractive? Is his charisma really high? Or is he just wealthy? Or did he win them by power? Like, tell me more.
Well, it's a subplot. He has to build his harem, so.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying he already had one. Okay.
No, he has to build his harem, and then
Well, that's not as fun.
And then Wired was like, all right, well, your character dies of disease. I'm like, oh. I was like, but my honor, and like senpai. I was like, oh, I broke character. Bad mid.
Hey, you said definitely not Japan, so
yeah, definitely. It's definitely not Japan. Just like it's regular Japanese harem. Like he doesn't really do anything. He just like the girls are all attracted to him. No honest to God reason.
Does
like,
he wear glasses? Is because like I feel like when they wear glasses in anime and like it does that thing where like you can't see their eyes, that's when all the girls swoon like, oh, is that
They're about
maybe
to
that's
lay their glorious master plan on you, and they think that you're some idiot.
exactly.
One of the points that you brought up, I thought was a really good one. Was fun is at the lower levels because that's where it's geared towards. The higher levels, though, somebody's talking about playing at higher levels, how the DMs have to learn to apply pressure because you have to raise more than just the stakes. What do you guys think about that?
Can you repeat the question?
Question is how do you guys feel about the fact that playing at higher levels, like you said, the player characters are basically demigods now. You have these very powerful people with a lot of HP running around. I guess what I'm getting at is do you guys feel like they have to raise more than just the stakes? This is where the decision making is really crucial.
I think they should. Again, I think this is going to go back to I make characters for the stories. I'm never going to make a character who's just a hard hitter just because. I always want them to have some kind of quirk. So I think at the higher levels, they should have more to lose than just their lives, especially if you've been playing the game for a while. I played in a campaign like a year or so ago where we were stuck down in some dungeon and we ended up finding my character's dad. We encountered these two liches, basically. There was like an artifact that we had to get, and basically my character's dad sacrificed himself so that we could all escape. So like I had to make that decision, like, am I gonna have my character stand here and like make a last stand with her dad while the rest of the party escapes, or is she gonna let her dad just die? And she let her dad die. I mean, she didn't, he told her to go, but it wasn't just her life at stake. And so I feel like because we were that high level, like we couldn't just take the monsters, and so the DM had to throw that kind of curve at us, and it worked really well.
That's actually really awesome. I've been very blessed with some absolutely fantastic players. Nobody here. No, you guys are fine. But
Fine.
H did tell me like she like kind of cried when Sergio died. So.
Oh my god, my heart broke, but it was like a happy kind of heartbreak because it was just so perfect for the character, at least from what I had seen of him what I'd heard of him in the campaign. So it was a very beautiful scene. And then to have Poe and Muriel just fuck off in the airship, I was like, yep, that's the cherry. That's right there on top of the sundae.
Yeah, they were just like, well, he was an idiot, and I was like, yeah, that's true to form for you guys.
I've been blessed with an absolute amazing cast during the podcast and off the podcast. And it is a juggle. Like when you do, high level campaigns and when you're running for them, you have to think like, okay, well, definitely the boss fights. My goal for a boss fight is to make it as chaotic as possible. Because if you have to split the character's attention. If you have one bad guy, they're going to focus on that bad guy and it's going to be boring. But if the bad guy is hanging from like swinging chains and there is tidal waves crashing around them and they have to make different checks to get to the boss, or they have to deal with the boss's minions, or they have to deal with the boss's minions, the chains, the tidal waves, like some natural disaster all at once. And they're like, okay, well, I'll fight the boss. You take care of the crystals. You take care of this thing, and we have to divide and conquer. Like that's a great boss fight for me.
That is 100% what Mal was trying to do in our last session that we had, where we were fighting like the giant mech thing. She like managed to see that the crystal lit up when he summoned the other mechs, and that's 100% what Mal was trying to do, was take out that device that summoned more creatures, because she was like, oh, we're gonna tank this if we don't get those things to stop spawning. So that's where all of her hits were going.
Yeah, so that is a mechanic that in boss fights that I do, is I make sure that there are multiple things happening at the same time. If they all focus on one thing, that's all they're going to do. Like,
Yep.
okay, well, the big boss is there. All right, well, then we're just going to jump him, and then he's going to be dead in like 2 rounds. Whee!
And that's no fun.
But yes, if you are going to do a high tier campaign and you're coming up with boss fights, or you're coming up with just encounters in general, don't just think about the monsters. The monsters are a small part of it. Think about the terrain. Think about what is going on. Even if they're fighting like a group of monsters, always think about the second wave. Okay, well, you've destroyed this set of monsters, but now there's another set of monsters, just as powerful, but they are not damaged, and you guys are taking a beating. Now the real fight begins.
All I can think of right now is that picture of Bob Ross painting, and he's like, but it's got like a dungeon map instead of the happy little trees. He's like, and here's an ogre. Oh, and a little goblin wizard, because everyone needs a friend with fireball.
Because everybody. Yeah, and this is a little goblin with prepared fireball, because everybody needs a friend.
Exactly. It's all I can think about. It's the perfect fight scenario.
Getting back to what you were saying, Toxic, I feel that a lot of people have issues with high tier campaigns is because the DMs themselves don't know enough or don't plan out enough to run those.
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, I feel like there are some DMs out there that just aren't prepared to handle each the player level and the amount of players together. I mean, if you're not prepared enough, it's going to end up like a season of Supernatural where they just die and come back, to have pity.
I mean, going back to doing the podcast, every boss fight in the podcast has been different or has had different things going on. Like we had boss fight with Velmar in the first season. There was giant mech suits, that people were climbing inside of, hiding, and even like not Sergio, but Sorinar. Again, you guys made 2 characters with 2 S names. I'm like, my God. And H, you didn't hear this, but I said I mix those 2 up all the time.
I mean, I've been having problems with, like, I wanted to just put S at the beginning as with my transcription, and I couldn't, because I was like, shit, is it Sergio or Sorinar?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Season 2, there was a lot going on. In Season 3, we did aerial combat. So,
ooh, I look forward to that.
That's one of the things that I do, but I don't get that from a lot of other DMs. Is I don't think that they think out their encounters as much. And I'm a broken record at this point. If you just focus like, okay, well, this monster is a CR25. Okay, well, there we go. That's challenging. It's like, but everybody's focused on that one creature. And yes, they have legendary actions, like they can take other turns, but part of it is one of the things I absolutely loved about Season 2 was not actually the boss fight. It was the fight with the horde of lizard folk that came after, where Ellie and Galaxia were in the tower making the potions to try to defeat crystalline lizard folk that were immune to damage. They were in the tower doing something, and like every time the tower got hit, they had to make saves for the vials not to be shattered or smashed or anything. And it's like there was a lot of things going on, and that fight sticks with me a little bit more than like just a typical, oh, here's a monster, go beat him up. Totally fine not to do combat inside combat if it's done well.
Well, and I think especially once you get those higher levels, I think the DM needs to really take stock of the party that they've got, because like everybody's going to have strengths, everyone's going to have weaknesses, and that includes the monsters. And if you've got a group who's really good with fire, maybe don't put them up against things that are weak against fire, even if they're 27 levels higher than the group, because it's still just gonna be a one-hit KO.
I think a way to compensate for that is to mix a little bit of a nasty surprise in for your players, because nobody like thinks right away. They're like, oh shit, that guy, I have fireball, for instance. I'm gonna lob it at this guy, and the DM says, "Wow, how do you kill it?" Or, "How do you perceive this person dying?" And they go through this whole big explanation, and then the DM gets a wicked little smile and says, "Well, since you died, that triggered something else, and it turns into something nasty."
Let's just, hey, welcome to Dark Souls.
Well, I'm a believer that damage should definitely be taken into account with creatures. Like the way that you act now and the way that you act when you're hurt are two different things. So boss might be calculating and manipulative at the beginning of the combat, but once you knock him down to half his hit points, he's definitely going to get more desperate. He's either going to try to flee or he's going to just go all out. It's like, okay, well, if I'm dying, I'm taking everyone with me.
Bond villain approach.
Yeah, you act differently under pressure. So the creatures have pressure. I mean, they're dying left and right. And I've had a lot of DMs that were like, "Oh, well, this guy's dead. This guy's dead. Well, this guy still thinks he can win, so he's going to go after you." It's like that doesn't make sense, though. No one fights at a like no one sane tries to fight at a disadvantage. They always look
Unless
for
you
the
kill their
advantage.
best friend. It's like, well, this kobold just saw you hack down his lover, so now he's got a level in Barbarian and he's gonna rage on your ass.